Oh,
Well, that's also a business.
Right. But anyway, in case you change your mind, maybe your photo can
good
be in there
evening,
someday.
everyone.
That
I'd
can
like
work
to
for you.
reconvene the meeting from earlier today. And we did not have a closed meeting. So welcome, Fan, for the evening session. Tonight we have one public hearing. And Michelle, I assume you're going to kick it off for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Special exception 250402, Michael and Priscilla Goodwin. The Goodwins have requested a special exception for an accessory dwelling unit for their property located at 1859 North Pose Road. This is pursuant to 17036A and 17062G. The property is 248 acres in size and it is zoned agricultural. The proposed ADU will be within the ordinance regulations of 1,200 square feet and within 200 feet of the main dwelling. They are proposing to use this for family and friends when visiting and possibly for themselves in the future, since this is a one-story or level and their main home is 2 stories with very steep stairs. The health department commented that the Goodwins would seek a separate construction permit for the septic, that there is a class 3B well that is drilled on the property. This was put in back in 2021 and they plan to connect to that for water source. VDOT commented this would not produce any additional traffic and therefore they didn't have any objections. In your packets, I provided several letters of support from adjoining property owners. The Planning Commission held their public hearing for this application at their last meeting of August the 20th, and they voted 6-0 to recommend approval to the board, and the applicants are here and present if you all have any questions for them.
Great.
So this public hearing's been properly advertised in accordance with
Yes,
Virginia Code 15.2.2204?
yes, sir.
Excellent.
Ms. Summers, I've never said this before, but you speak fast. And I believe, I swear I heard you say 12,000 square feet, but maybe I misheard it. I think
1,200 square feet, I
Yeah,
apologize.
it's a Page County thing. I
It
just can't
is.
quite catch it. Okay, but it's 1,200 square feet. And
Correct.
yeah, and if I could just ask a question of the
Sure.
applicants. In all of that, it sounds like it would be primarily for guests in the near term and then maybe for you at some later date.
Well, now it's going to be 12,000 square feet.
I know. Trust me, I'm sure I misheard that.
Primary purpose,
Yeah, please.
the primary purpose is to house, so that when all of our kids and
Oh,
grandkids
okay.
are there, we have enough bedrooms between our main house and this guest house to house everybody. And then, as Ms. Summers said, eventually, hopefully later rather than sooner, if we need one level living, this would provide that, and we could live out our years in Rappahannock.
And there's room to build this on 248 acres, you think?
We can squeeze it in.
Right, okay. All right.
All right. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak with regards to this particular application, please come up and give us your name and your district. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Hunt, Jackson District. I just wanted to reiterate my comments that I made at the Planning Commission for the benefit of the board. I don't have any problem with this application. Specifically, this is in general. With ADUs, it would be helpful. Mr. Whitson preceded my comment by clarifying the 1,200 square feet, but there was no floor plan that was included with the application, and it would be helpful. I think going forward, if we just had a general floor plan included with these applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. Looks like online is fine, so there's no one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the board.
What are the conditions? Any?
I don't think there were any additional conditions requested. It meets the criteria that one would normally expect from an ADU. It's 1,200 square feet or less. It utilizes an existing entrance and it's within 200 feet of the main structure. We had no comment at the Planning Commission, similar to this evening. And it was a unanimous vote of the Planning Commission with Mr. Atkins being absent to forward this to the Board of Supervisors with the recommendation for approval.
Great. In which voting district is this?
Mine, Wakefield.
Seems like we should get.
I staffed the planning commission meeting. I mentioned in response to public comment then, this special exception, if it were to be approved, would be like others, that they will not obtain a zoning permit and then subsequently a building permit unless they submit a floor plan that is less than 1,200 square feet and doesn't have interconnected space. So they need to pass those thresholds later in the process.
And we had set a precedent for that recently with the application for an ADU up in Chester Gap.
Yep.
And though there are no floor plans, there are architect's drawings.
Yep.
And dimensions, which looks to be a very nice little cottage.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, move to approve special exception 25-04-02. And are there any following conditions?
No.
No.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right.
1,200 square feet.
Factors of 10.
Yep, yep. All right, now we're moving into the evening public comment period.
12,000.
Anyone wishing to speak, please be recognized. Give us your name and your district. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Mark Anderson from the Piedmont District. I'm here to speak about the courthouse project. For those of you who don't snuggle up at night with the Virginia Constitution, I will point out that Article 7, Section 10 says, no bond issue may be incurred by a county without a public vote of the constituency, also called a referendum, although it's not in the Constitution, it's in the statute. It goes on, the statutes, Virginia Code, Section 15.2, 2638 at seek, go on to say a special election needs to be called as ordered by the circuit court in order to hold this election. So I had thought at first you could combine it with a regular election, but I'm not sure you could do that unless you schedule them both at the same time. And it goes on to say the regular election officials of the county need to organize and hold the election, and it has to be advertised 3 times, I think, in the paper. I noticed in tonight's discussion of the courthouse, you've got 2 timelines, one for the architects, I gather, and one for the people that do the bonding. Nowhere in there did I see a reference to hold the referendum. It would seem to me you'd want to hold the referendum as soon as you could being when you know pretty much what the cost is going to be. Just in case it doesn't pass, you have time to hold it over again, or revisit your plans or do whatever it is you need to do. So I commend to you that portion of the Constitution and the Virginia Code, and I'm sure the county attorney will have an opinion on all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Margaret Vaughn, also Piedmont District. Mark and I are sort of tag teaming here tonight. We drew straws as to which one of us would speak to which issue. Basically, I'm in support also of early scheduling of a referendum for this courthouse funding. And along with this referendum, and I really urge the Board of Supervisors to consider scheduling another real town hall meeting to help the residents of this county understand what they're being asked to support in terms of this courthouse project. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of rumors you hear, a lot of concerns that people have. And while I commend tremendously the efforts that all the supervisors have made in laboriously going through this process, as Ms. Donahue advised me tonight, it's been going on since 2018. A lot of the county residents have been on the receiving end of the information, been wonderfully transparent, and I don't have any qualms about that. But the Rap News has reported faithfully on this project. But there, as it's progressed, and I've tried to follow it as I can, there's a lot of questions that I know I have, and I would expect that others may have other questions or comments or suggestions, things that would just make it more easier to, I don't want to use the word sell, but convince the county residents that this would be a good idea, is if you have a town hall meeting where these questions could be asked. And I also suggest that we do this somewhat soon, because we're going to lose 2 of my most favorite of your 5 favorite supervisors after the next election. And that means your collective corporate knowledge of what this whole project has entailed would be lost too, and new supervisors coming in may not just be able to handle questions as they come up as fluidly as you. I really have been impressed with what you've done in the process of your due diligence in coming up with the courthouse plans. It's been a very, very laborious process, and incorporating the comments from the district and circuit court judges, working with the architects, consulting the Virginia courthouses best practices. It's kind of dry reading, but I did make myself go through it. You know, you've really addressed a lot of the things that have been brought up to date. But it is a big project, and it does have the potential of affecting a lot of the residents in this county that make it seem like a good idea to hold a town meeting soon. And I will point out one thing which stood out to me, and I assume if I was struck by this, or maybe others. One of the meetings that you held that involved the courthouse discussion was preceded by comments from the fire chief here, talking about the understaffing of our fire districts and the difficulty that the county has with responding to all of the fire calls with just an almost all volunteer fire response teams, and the fact that the county does not have the funding for a full-time person. And the comment is kind of concluded with, and you may find county residents, every one of them, are at risk of their house burning down because we may not have the resources to be able to respond to a fire call if we are spread too thin and have other calls that have preceded yours. And I thought, well, that puts my heart in my chest a little bit. And yet we're now talking about something which is in the millions and millions of dollars. So residents may be thinking, as I have, well, I'm at risk for my house burning down, and I'm also being asked to support a multi-million-dollar courthouse project. How is this going to be funded? What's its impact going to be on me? Along with this, will there be some additional plans for making our fire response team a little more robust? That will affect me. The courthouse, if I stay on the right side of the law, should never affect me. And in fact, one of the comments that came out that the judges shared with us is most of the parties that are involved in the proceedings in the courthouse really are for out-of-county parties. So the residents of the county don't get as much benefit out of a courthouse as they might get in reducing the risk, fire insurance coverage, et cetera, of having a more robust fire team. So, oops, one page too far. I hope that the county supervisors here will consider holding a referendum, will consider that there may be more ideas that we need to generate before committing completely to this one track of action. And a referendum, a town hall meeting may help us come to some of those, or at least answer the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret?
Yes, ma'am.
Evening, Sheila Gressinger, Hampton District. Read an interesting article in the newspaper last week but Virginians want reps to act on housing. And there was a little emphasized thing, one proposal that did not go through would have given the state authority to intervene when local governments fail to act on affordable housing. And I just want to make a statement that I think Chuck Ackrey saved our bacon in Rush River Commons when he was able to foresee the need for housing, which a lot of people had talked about. And so he was able to design a beautiful little community of 18 homes, which in the town of Washington, I think it had been quoted, had about 82 to 84 residents. Well, now it's over 100. That's 18 units if there were 2 people per. It might be a little bit more, but I think that's to our benefit. That's just my thing on housing. And then, because I want to say, I remember a vibrant Washington. I remember when there was 4th of July that had a big thing like the Christmas at Avon Hall. It was a whole street and it was festivities and all kinds of wonderful things. And then it got quiet. People who lived in some of the big houses, the families, the children all moved away and the parents died. And so there were just big houses that turned into other things. And so then Jim Abdo came along, bought up a bunch of empty buildings, tried to put a little bit of vibrancy in, and all manner of mayhem dumped on his head. And so he said, you know, I can just leave them the way they are. And so the town did not grow anymore except for the inn. You know, so people say, oh, the inn has a foothold. Well, that's just the way things have worked out. And I'm happy because the town is one of my favorite things. Then I want to get down to the courthouse. Of the sidewalks. The reason we don't really have sidewalks, and that wasn't addressed for such a long period of time, was when a certain person named Mr. Connick came in and sued the holy heck out of everybody. And so the town spent thousands of dollars that could have been started to be used on things like the sidewalks and everything. So it put us like 3 steps backwards again. So we're just starting to come out of that. Then the other thing is my favorite new word is finesse. And so while we're talking about the courthouse and all the different ways we're trying to figure out how to work together and work with people, I went to my dictionary. And finesse is to do something in a subtle, in a delicate manner. It's like, don't use a sledgehammer, just sort of figure out how we can all work together to make this thing happen, because we really need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe those are.
All right, not seeing anyone else, I'll go ahead and close public comment.
I suggest the board consider amending the agenda to swap the order of topics. I think most people in the audience are.
I'll move that we swap it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So it's here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was sure everyone was here for the sign ordinance discussion.
I feel like we're gonna bring that one to a close before the end of the year.
Maybe.
Have I spoken too soon?
We'll call it the Kearney ordinance, and then you can own it. And Janelle will be free of any responsibility.
Do you want to address the concern about the referendum while we're
Well,
all together?
Sure, happy to. Well, I think there's a lot of things the body can speak to. Let me just say, there's a lot of information online, the county website, as well as in the BoardDocs agendas, which, as these meetings have happened and the agendas have been prepared, I've done my best to link back to past meetings where perhaps there were many attachments for those meetings. So the May 14th meeting has many attachments that included everything from the floor plans, et cetera, to the debt service costs. So those are all linked here and we can pull them up if the board would like. Regarding funding, Mr. Anderson is correct relative to referendums. However, that doesn't apply when if the county were to seek pooled financing through the Virginia Resources Authority, or as has happened here in the past, the state school financing authority, I forget what it's called. And so the past bond issuances have been through pooled financing. And so there might be 50 different local governments in the state who are all looking to borrow money at the same time. They all go in together, makes a much bigger prize for those wanting to seek the comfort and stability of municipal debt. And so then it provides more favorable rates. And then we all go through the process together and borrow money together at various terms. Ms. Jewell put together a short memo to me to share with the board to help you understand the cycle of the Virginia Resources Authority. They have 3 issuances per year. And the next 3, she's detailed in the table that is attached and shown on the screen right now. So these dates necessarily kind of back into some of your decision points. And the other schedule, as was alluded to by a public commenter, has the design cycle and construction cycle as has been laid out by the architectural firm. You can see here that the board would have to adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of the bonds as part of this pooled financing. And in advance of that, staff would have to apply for this. So in the spring, the deadline for application is February 6th. And then you can see later in the year, it's March 1st, August 7th. The most recent offering passed us by not too long ago, which is why there's a little bit of time before February 6th. So there is not a need for a referendum if you use this process, which is pretty standard. The other options for financing for smaller projects are through IDAs or EDAs, and they have bank qualified debt. That usually is limited to about $10 million, so it's not a function here. You wouldn't need a referendum for that either. But just note that that is another avenue through which localities often borrow without a referendum. I don't know the legal tales of how you get from the Constitution to the pooled financing, or if the state is doing things a certain way, or it's held up in a different section of code. I just don't know that. I just know that this is done over and over throughout the Commonwealth. We've done it here in Rappahannock County for the past issuances that Mr. Luke has been involved in, which I'm sure did not have referendums attached to them. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions here. You can see, importantly, the first payment due date for principal and interest that would be linked to each application cycle, and think about when that would start hitting your annual budgets. We've talked before about your opportunity to use cash for certain things. The available cash the board reviewed earlier today, I think, is at $1.8 million. So not enough to fund design or anything like that. So you would have to include that in your borrowing. And then, as Bonnie notes, within this memo, you can pay yourself back for design costs that have been incurred before you borrow the money, with some limitations. And as Mr. Luke pointed out, you do need bond counsel, and she checked that the bond counsel that we worked with, or the Water and Sewer Authority worked with, is available if the board wanted to use that individual for each of the borrowing next year.
Since we're on the topic of referendums, I raised the idea at our last meeting of seeking support from the town of Washington that would basically require them to share or otherwise enter an agreement with the county for revenue sharing on the meals and lodging tax revenue front, and in that context, the extent to which if we were not able to reach some agreement with the town to support county coffers through local meals and lodging tax revenue in the town, we could then consider moving the courthouse outside the town to potentially reduce costs. Am I correct that such a move, in fact, would require a referendum because it would be moving it from
Yes.
one jurisdiction to another, meaning from a incorporated town to?
I think the language is even more nuanced than that, an adjacency to the existing parcel, but most definitely if you move it out of the town, you would have to.
It's that one right there. It's this code section.
Yeah.
There are processes.
So separate apart from the debt question, which sounds like a bond would not require a referendum based on this pool approach. Still, any decision to move the courthouse would require a referendum.
Yes, it would.
And such a referendum certainly could be stated in such a way like we saw in Augusta County, where it calls out the relative cost of option A or option B.
So long as we had those
Yeah.
engineering borne costs. Yeah.
Well, I'm at a place where, this predates me. I've had people ask me, do we need a courthouse? Like the big overview is that it's a core function of our government, but aside from that, the state of Virginia requires us to have a courthouse in our county. So, unless we want to dissolve the county and become part of Culpeper again, we have to have our courthouse. I've had a number of people ask me that. Like, can't we just save money by going to Fauquier or Culpeper? We cannot do that unless the citizens want to get rid of Rappahannock County. The state of Virginia requires us to have a courthouse, and the attending offices for the constitutional officers. So all localities have to do that. Further, the circuit court has statutory power to require us to make the courthouse suitable for the administration of justice. We have gone over the safety of this building many times. It is woefully inadequate for the deputies, for the victims, for counsel, for the judges. And Mr. Goff has talked about how criminal dockets, maybe back in Mr. Luke's day, were much smaller than they are now. And I think that the statistic that the majority of the criminal issues that come through are from out of county doesn't negate the fact that we're required to supply this for our constituency and for the county. When we did the first iteration of the building, of the courthouse, my overwhelming feeling was that people were very concerned with how it looked. That seemed to be a really big part of what informed people to come here. Other than the instance when they thought we were going to rip it down, tear down the building, then a lot of people came. But it seems to me that the aesthetics of the building are valuable to our constituents, and people pay attention to that kind of stuff. The current building that we have, which our architect has described as having cut off meat, fat, and now we're cutting off bone, is 2 courtrooms with 1 jury deliberation room. We have 3 jurisdictions. We have JDR, we have General District Court, and we have Circuit Court. We cannot accommodate all of those at once, nor do we need to, because we don't have things going on that often. But it seemed to me that the biggest feedback that I got was that people don't want us to build something that looks like our brewery, which we could, and a pole barn. I mean, there are things that you can do that are much cheaper than what we're looking at. And when I mean much cheaper, I'm not sure how much cheaper, but I do think that people probably intuitively understand that what we've currently have before us does come with a higher price tag. When this courthouse was built at the inception of this county because the people of this county had to go from like Chester Gap, Amosville, all the way to Culpeper to get their taxes paid, get marriage licenses, to vote, and we broke off from Culpeper and became our own county. And I don't know the exact amount that this cost relative to now, but my guess is that it probably wasn't inexpensive. I do not think we're going to be at a time other than now where things are going to be remarkably or even significantly cheaper to build. I have arrived at the point that I think that we needed to do something years ago. We haven't done it, and now is the time to do it. I have heard from the public that they care about aesthetics and that they do want to keep it in town, and I support that. I do understand that this is going to be expensive, but that is the cost of playing ball in life today. We haven't done it, and it's not going to get any cheaper, and we've just pushed it off and pushed it off and pushed it off. I think that I would love to have a discussion with the town, and I think that that might inform how we do what we do, but I do not think that that hinges on what we do. I really have come to believe that we have to do something, and we have to do it now. And I think that how we do it with the town, we will get spelled out in the future. Whatever deal we could cook up with the town wouldn't be binding on them or us, in the sense that our recurring revenue is the shortest distance between paying our bills and having a source of recurring revenue. So even if the town, which we have no authority over, were to strike a deal with us, which I would love to do, I'd love to sit down with them and talk to them and say, hey, what do you want from us? What can we'd love to help you, but have us help pay for this. What can we do? It doesn't change the fact that it's possible that they could renege or that they could change what they do. It's a different layer of government. But I do have hope that there would be some good discussions there. That said, you all are aware that Ms. Smith and I are leaving. I just feel that, with this short amount of time left, I feel like I would be ready, not tonight, but I would be ready to make a decision sooner than later to move forward in a direction, because I think we owe it to the public, and I think we owe it to the people that can't get a trial in under a year. And we have talked about this a lot. Ms. Smith's talked about this more than I have, and Mr. Woods, and people that have been on board longer than I have. So that's just where I am. I feel like it's not a popular thing to do. It's expensive, and I understand that. I just think it's the right thing to do.
Well, if you want the lame ducks to go first, I'll go next. I'll just say, as the lame duck on the board, one of the two lame ducks on the board, I would never vote for this plan as it exists now, because it does not come with anything less than a 6 to 9 cent tax increase, which would mean a 10 to 15% tax increase for folks in the county. And it would be an affront to everything I have stood for on the Board of Supervisors to do that to people on my way out the door. I have tried to work diligently on the courthouse project. It's been with many challenges, as I'm sure anyone in the public who has observed the process knows. I appreciate the work of the Planning Oversight Committee. I take issue with the statements of the architect that we would be cutting bone. I don't see how you can look at a final product that will cost between $25 and $30 million to build and not think that you need to make reductions. I think it would be incredibly premature to take any action until we speak to our peers or at least hear from our peers, not our peers, but our counterparts on the town council. I'm hopeful for that relationship to bear fruit, as I think it would be in the mutual best interests of all parties. And I hope we're all at that point. I believe the town wants to pare down the courthouse, and I sure want to as well. In terms of the functions of the courthouse, you all have heard me say before that I have a cousin who works in juvenile justice in a system that had a courthouse security incident, a major courthouse security incident. I know how bad it can get. I understand how important it is. In every choice we make as board members, there is a balance. And I will say with this planning endeavor, I don't think we're there yet to where it's something I could support. We are waiting to hear from our counterparts on the town council, which will be another week. I would support special meetings to meet with them or to review their response. The other item which we've discussed as a board, which I think is an important planning point for this project, is town halls or special meetings at all of the, or at least most of the all of the fire halls. You don't have to go to Sperryville twice and hit fire and rescue, you just go to the fire hall. So those are important meetings to take. I think you get more public feedback when you meet people where they live in a less formal atmosphere. And for something that's important and this expensive, I think it's the very least we should do. I may have more to say, but I wanted to put those couple points out there so people know from my time on the board that I'm a process person, and I think we should follow the process. And we voted last meeting to work with the town, to hear from the town, to make an extension of an invitation. And until that process is complete, I'm not sure what the next part of the process should be. But I am still very willing to work on it, and I still bring a lot of knowledge to the table. And please rest assured that even as a private citizen, I will take great interest in this project, and I will look forward to hearing more about it for years to come. What that says about me, I don't know.
Strange hobbies.
You need a hobby.
Yep.
Yeah, I sat up here and took lots of notes. I'm all in for a town hall meeting, all in. At some point, not too long ago, I thought it was at this table, we talked about meetings, kind of a hybrid of one town hall meeting to the traveling fire hall meetings was like 3 meetings. One in the east end of the county, one in the west end of the county, one in the center of the county, AM, PM weekend. You really can't do more than that. I mean, that is absolutely putting yourselves out there. We're wanting to hear from the public. Because I do think it's crucial that the FAQs, if you will, about this project get properly communicated so that people have accurate information. The more accurate information everyone has, the better questions that they can ask. So I find about, like I said, I am all in for a town hall meeting, 3, whatever. I think we need to hear. We need to be able to put our heads down on the pillow at night and say, we put it out there. We put it out there and we invited you all to come talk to us about it. A couple of things, though. Something Mr. Carney just said struck me, and I'm embarrassed to say I hadn't thought of it this way. I'd been so focused on the project in terms of the building and the money that I really hadn't thought about when Mr. Carney said our citizens' right to a speedy trial. That is a foundation of our country, right? And I just, in this moment, it's going to sound silly to say I'm reminded, but I am reminded in a previous life, if you will, I had to go to juvenile domestic court with, a domestic case. My ex-husband and I had to go to court from January of one year to October. And we were in Fauquier, so they were probably here. They had a larger capacity. From January to October, my daughter's life was, she didn't know what was happening, right? She didn't know what was happening. So we do need to consider that. We do need to consider that. Also, the money there, that was $10,000 in child support. $10,000 in child support. So when we're talking about money and how it's going to impact our residents and our citizens, we need to look at all of it. So that is important as well. The last thing is this will, I think Ms. Smith just said that, she was sure the town wants to par down or maybe that was.
I said it.
Was it you? Okay. The size. I'd really like to talk to him. I don't know how to get him at the table. I don't know how to make that happen. Thanks to, of all the things that I have said at this table, the one thing Rap News quoted a week or two ago, we laughed about it, was my bundt cake comment. Like, somebody needs to go down. And I thought, really, all the things I say, Rap News is going to quote. Supervisor Comer says someone needs to go down the street with a bundt cake.
Now they're going to say it again.
I'm going to say it again. I went home after this afternoon's meeting and I thought, what, Monday, I might just show up to the town council meeting, say nothing, and just hand them a bundt cake.
Here comes Donna.
Yeah, they'll be like, here she comes, this is a crazy one. So I don't know what else, what more can be said. We know it's documented. We've been talking, the collective, we've been talking about this for close to 50 years. I do feel a strong responsibility. I will not feel good if I'm part of a board that another board is talking about going, do you know, there is documentation of them talking about this in 2025. So where that leaves us tonight, I don't know if that is to ask to get the town hall meetings scheduled. I don't know if it's to say, let's be prepared to do X on when. Moving the courthouse outside, out of the town, I'm all for exploring that. But again, I'm thinking of, okay, well, what money has been spent on this project to date? And then what money do we then spend to do a cost analysis on moving it elsewhere?
Right.
And then we've seen how this process goes. I'm the newest on the board, and we've been talking about this for, since I've been on the board. We already know construction costs are going to go up at least an average of 3% every year that we wait. So you start adding up all that money, and do we do all this to save what? Because I would not be able to look anybody in the eye if we dragged our feet much longer in the name of saving money, and then we break even, or worse, we spend more money. So I don't know that those comments are helpful. It is really just a stream of conscious, but that's where my brain is. Yeah.
Thank you.
That, and if y'all have, anybody has a good bundt cake recipe, I need it.
I'll be quick. So just since we're talking about this again tonight, I'll just kind of outline where I stand, and frankly, I'm kind of agree with everyone in part. So everyone knows my opinion on school funding. I think that we are on an unsustainable trajectory in terms of school funding. I've stated my position that local funding in the schools should be frozen at $9.5 million, which would be our fiscal year 2024 local transfer to the schools. And I think it should be frozen for at least 3 fiscal years to give us breathing room, to give our taxpayers breathing room on these other initiatives, whether it's expansion of our paid EMS providers, through ALS 1400, our paid paramedics, and or this huge capital project, the courthouse. The building that Glavian Homes, the architectural firm, has come up with is very attractive. I think most people are comfortable with it. There has been some consternation among certain residents of the town who feel like it's too big. But, to Mr. Carney's point, ultimately that building has been driven in its configuration by very thoughtful input from judges and clerks who are the most directly involved day-to-day interested parties in any kind of courthouse project. And we've ended up with a configuration of 2 courtrooms, which I think to some seems excessive, but I've asked some questions along the way and confirmed that across 3 courts, General District Court, Circuit Court, and Juvenile Domestic Relations Court, court meets here. I think we came up with a number about 130 days a year, so every 3 days during a calendar year. So it's not insignificant, and that's plain fact. So 130 days a year goes directly against comments I've heard from some who say casually, "Oh, courthouse never gets used." It's just not true. So it does get used a lot. Judge Cupp, who I respect a lot, made it very clear that from a juvenile domestic relations court perspective, scheduling, safety, et cetera, this 2 courtroom configuration makes sense. We compromised by not doubling up on jury deliberation rooms, et cetera, so we've scaled it back. So we end up with a building which is in a logical location, lined up on Courthouse Row with the other buildings that are here. It looks good. And then we get to the price tag, and everyone who's said nothing's getting cheaper is absolutely correct. But as I did during our budget season, as we were looking for revenue to fund yet another increase in local school funding, I sent this letter to the town government, and I said, "Hey, guys, women, men, it's both, okay. Town council members," that's better. I was struggling there for a minute. Town council members, you have a meals and lodging tax rate of 2.5%. In the county as a whole, outside of the town, the tax rate's 4%. We are scrambling to fund our schools, and this is before we really got into the heart of what our final costs in the courthouse would be. Raise your rate out of fairness to all the other businesses in the county whose patrons are paying 4% meals and lodging taxes, and be fair to them, and then consider sharing the revenue generated from another 1.5% through an increase on your tax rate with us. And now that request I made generally for consideration during our last budget season has really come back to the forefront, and I appreciate you all at least standing with me to ask the town council to sit down with us, because bottom line, let's be clear, Christine is correct. We're talking about somewhere for annual ongoing debt service on a bond based on the current courthouse configuration that aesthetically at least, most people are comfortable with, including I think most people on the board. We're talking about between a 6 and a 9%, a 6 and 9 penny increase, which would be a 5 to 10% increase on the current tax rate of 63 cents. The bottom line is, if the town wants the courthouse, the town government wants the courthouse in the town, and the town wants to provide input on what it looks like and how big it is, and whether or not it meets or fits the scale of the rest of the town, then let's find some areas of cooperation. In particular, help us pay for it through taxing your visitors to the town, which to me seems far better than taxing the people who live here. And such a tax, an increase of 1.5% on a meal bill or a lodging bill in the town of Washington would go wholly unnoticed by visitors. But for the tax sensitive people who are sitting here tonight and who are worried about the cost of this courthouse, those visitors who come into the Inn at Little Washington and go home at night, just cut your tax increase in half. And I find it difficult to understand why this idea is so offensive to folks in the town. In fact, one member of the town council, I understand, recently said that they didn't really care if the courthouse was in the town. Okay, if that's the position, then maybe we're getting nowhere on our revenue sharing request. But I have to think, for some of the reasons Mr. Carney stated, that is, a court is an essential function of our town government. This is the county seat. This town struggles at times. Ms. Gressinger spoke about Mr. Abdo acquiring properties to breathe some life into this town. This town does struggle with vitality at times, and I have to believe that it is in the best interest of the residents of this town and of this town council to have that courthouse here. So I hope that this anecdote that I learned, where at least one member of the town council said nobody really cared if the courthouse was in town, I hope that's incorrect, because I have to believe that it's preferred over moving it somewhere else. And frankly, I don't want to be part of moving the courthouse somewhere other than the town. I'm just raising it because ultimately, like Ms. Smith, it's hard for me to stand behind a 10 to 15% real property tax increase if we're not able to reach an agreement with folks down the street who have a huge opportunity to tap visitors for the revenue we need to cover this debt burden, not only in part, but by half. And I hope tonight, if anything I say counts, that everyone in Rappahannock County understands that a revenue sharing arrangement with the town of Washington that would put an additional 1.5% in meals and lodging tax revenue from the town into the county coffers would reduce your courthouse-related tax burden by half, period, end of story. So we're talking about now a town of 115 people, basically hold the fate of, we'll say, 7,200 people in their hands. And to me, it seems like an awfully ripe opportunity to explore, and certainly one that would send the right message from this town to the rest of Rappahannock County. So that's where I stand. I don't want to move it. I don't want to start over. And frankly, I think what we have located right down Courthouse Row with an additional 1.5% of the town's meals and lodging tax revenue, we're close to done. We're close to done because I can live with a 5% real property tax increase, and I think most people could. So.
And for all of our sake, because I know you've done a lot of research, where do those numbers come from?
Rough numbers, if you're talking about the revenue out of the town, sure. So, I mean, the rough numbers, the town of Washington each year in the last, I would say, last 2 or 3 years have been particularly good from a in a Little Washington revenue perspective. Call it $650,000 in meals and lodging tax revenue that's landing in the town coffers. That $650,000 is driven by a 2.5% tax rate. So if you back into what the aggregate revenue is that's generating the $650,000 in meals and lodging tax revenue of the town, you can assume that there's approximately $30 million in annual meals and lodging receipts generated in the town of Washington. So 2.5% times 30 million, you get $600,000+. That number is only increasing. We can see the activity in the town. They're adding hotel rooms, they're adding swimming pools, they're adding a spa. And so I am assuming that that $30 million in meals and lodging receipts in the town is probably going to increase significantly in the coming years. No doubt, economic challenges and other factors might come into play, but the town has been on a pretty steady revenue trajectory that now places them at above $600,000+ a year. So assuming sustained growth and taking into account what the inn is building in the town and what that'll generate in terms of additional revenue, then it is easy to conclude that if we were to reach an agreement with the town for them to increase their tax rate from 2.5 to 4, or on the lodging front, a discussion earlier today that got me really excited, increase the lodging tax rate in the county so visitors, who, to your excellent point, are the ones who are visiting and staying in hotel rooms in the county are taxed at 10%. I don't know what share of the 30 million is attributable to hotel rooms in the town, but no doubt a pretty significant share. So to get to this idea of the town sharing revenue with us to cut in half potentially this 6 penny to 9 penny increase on the real property tax rate, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to do that math and see how that happens almost immediately. So that's the math.
Thank you.
Sure.
I knew you had done a lot of research. So
Well, it doesn't take much research. You can just look at the town budget and then extrapolate. But I think we can see from all the activity in town that whatever the number is, was $30 million of receipts or $35 million, $40 million, just multiply that by 1.5% and you see where we end up.
Yep. And what Mr. Carney said rings in my mind, we don't have anything that would say this is a permanent agreement because the town could at some point decide not to want to help again for some reason. But I sincerely hope if we sit down and can come to an agreement, everybody knows that this is a 30-year plan and we're going to need help for that length of time.
Yeah, and I don't want to muddy the waters, but there is another area of potential cooperation where I see a real opportunity for us to work with the town. And that is something that, whenever I brought it up, has not garnered a very enthusiastic response from the mayor and others on the town council. But I want to put it out there because I think most logical thinking people in Rappahannock County would agree it's a good idea. That is, the town operates a wastewater treatment facility and a water supply infrastructure and does that through a private contractor. Separately, in Ms. Smith's district, we have an aging sewer plant that is operated by a county water and sewer authority. And it seems to me, and I've tried to bring this subject up with the town previously, it seems to me that one area of cooperation that I think should be linked to our discussions whenever they happen is why in a county of 7,300 people would we have a county water and sewer authority, which is responsible for Sperryville's wastewater treatment plant, which manages the 2 wastewater treatment facilities at the schools, and does so with a lean staff and outside support from a private contractor. And down the road, in a town of 115 people, there's a wastewater treatment facility and a water supply system for a Michelin 3-star restaurant primarily, that is operated by a private contractor, presumably at a premium. Why wouldn't we manage all of that together for the benefit of reducing costs placed on Sperryville sewer users and to reduce costs on folks like Patrick O'Connell, who pays the vast majority of the wastewater and water bills paid into the town coffers? Why wouldn't we as a county try to pull all of that management under a single utility, benefit from economies of scale across the board, manage it professionally, and cut costs for everyone? And I think it's a pretty darn good idea. And I think that if some wise people on the sewer authority and some wise people on the town council sat down and really worked on the numbers, I think everyone would see the benefit of going in that direction. And so that, I mean, Mr. Carney asked me a really good question after my last discussion about approaching the town for revenue sharing. And that was, well, you know, what, I don't know how you phrase it exactly, but in effect, it's like, well, what would we offer the town? That's the offer. We have a county water and sewer authority. We've got really good people on that board. And the town, I think, could save the Little Washington a ton of money and save the residents of the town a ton of money if they just worked with us cooperatively to gain economies of scale in this regard. One public utility in a county of 7,300 people makes good sense. So.
Ego being logical. But thank you. That does make good points. So for me, I know this is a very serious conversation for everybody in this county, including us. I can't think about a more difficult decision to make than spending $23 million, whatever the number ends up being. But I do know that when I decided to run, one of the first things Ron Fraser told me was, you got to build a courthouse. If you don't build a courthouse, what's happening in Madison is going to happen to us. And it's going to cost a lot of money. And that was 2018, 2019. The building committee, I think, started in 2018 because we knew we needed to do this. So we have been looking at this same subject for many years. And it's kind of like the definition of insanity. You just look at it and hoping the outcome's going to change. But the only outcome that I see that has changed is the price tag keeps going up. And Ms. Comer, because of her background, I think 3% is probably light. But still, if you think of 3% of $23 million, it's going to add up pretty quickly. I think we've done 2 space studies. The second one, the biggest change was the second courtroom. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we have just continued to, like I feel like we did with the Sperryville sewer system, we've kicked the can because nobody wants to be the bad guy. I mean, we live with everybody that's here. We dine and we shop, and we don't want to be the person that you're looking at every time you walk in the door as how evil you are because you voted one way or the other. But I do believe that's why we were elected as leaders, is to make these difficult decisions. And I can be upset with the previous boards because they chose to leave it to us, which isn't fair. But I don't want to be that board. I know this is a lot of money. I think everybody in this county takes pride in this building because, boy, when people thought we were going to take it down, everybody was engaged and involved and everything else. This building has a lot of history and means a lot. If you put up a Penn Druid 2 doors down, I don't think the public is going to be thinking, wow, what a great building I have and how proud I am, and can't wait for you to see our new courthouse kind of feeling, because it just wouldn't be good. So we got the Planning Oversight Committee experts involved. I mean, these are the folks that know what you need, why you need it, and can articulate what they're seeing across the Commonwealth. And it's gotten scarier. I mean, in 6 years, times have just changed. And to tell the world what our situation is with our courtroom and not take action, I think, is dangerous. So I think if we can get help from the inn, that is paramount. But as Van said, we have to do this courthouse and figure out how to pay for it. And if it's not the inn, maybe there's another way. But the town is the easy hit if they want to help this community. And I like the way you said 7,200 people, because it's their friends and neighbors too. Excuse me. I believe we do need to start posting some frequently asked questions in the paper. I've had the same question about why can't we just go to Culpeper or Fauquier? And we have asked that question, and we have good reasoning why. Well, you said it tonight, and I appreciate that. But I think we get a lot of the same questions. So if we could put those in the paper, and at least people know, one, we've researched it, and I swear we've researched every angle that I can think of for many years. So it would be nice to just have maybe a little box in the paper for the next 4 weeks or whatever that has frequently asked questions, and here are the answers, so that we're being very transparent. I am open to town halls. I'm hopeful that some of these frequently asked questions, if in the paper, will take care of a lot of the whys. Definitely not the concern over a tax increase. But I do believe safety, security of everyone in the building, and it's not Rappahannock citizens, because we got good people. 75% or more of the court cases are external, coming in to visit. And so we have to look forward, because the worst thing I can think of is in 10 years you got to add on because you didn't think well enough. And so many courthouses around the Commonwealth, that's happening. I forget what Fauquier said their campus was looking. It was huge. So I know it's not popular. I am ready to hear from the citizens and do what we need to do to get this moving before the price goes up even more.
One thing I forgot to mention, and I think I forgot to mention this last time too, but it's been on my mind. The building committee, as we ended up concluding our work, we did a balloon flight and a footprint layout of the proposed building on site, so that people would get an idea of the massing. And I think that's a really critical step that we need to make sure we also check off as well. Because I do think that it's quite large, and people need to get that.
Yep.
So,
No, I like that.
yeah, that's a good idea. So built into the, you all remember that built in, when Andrew mentioned this last time, built into their, how they go about this process was that like community engagement part. I wonder if they'd be willing to do that. Like if that could be part of what they do.
Well, last time, the folks in Luray came and laid it out, Gary.
Yeah, the surveyor's on the job. It might be close enough to our current buildings that we could just pull off of the corners of those buildings, and not have to suffer the expense of the surveyor.
But it would be a good idea to do that in conjunction with them doing whatever it.
An open house type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
event.
exactly.
Yep.
Totally. At the same time, so that it's very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And then they'd be able to field those questions. When
Yeah.
people have them, they'd be there to do that.
I mean, that's what the building committee did when we did the layout and the balloon flight. We had a special day that was dedicated to that, and the building committee members were on site to talk to folks, and we had handouts, and there were displays on the screens on the former county administrator's front porch so that people could look through the information on screens as well. So I think that was very helpful for a lot of people, and even people who didn't agree with it appreciated all the trouble that we went to make the presentation and to be accurate in our depiction.
It may not be big enough, but it would almost be convenient to have that here and the meetings in the theater at different times. So you could have like 3 or 4 different sessions in the theater while people are walking around and seeing the land staked out. Convenience, and I think good for everybody.
And I did want to say, I don't blame former boards for not doing this, because the way that things are going, we would probably be looking at building another one anyway. If we had built it in the 70s, it would be, we would just finish the courthouse and, not the courthouse, the library, 30 years ago. And we're already basically talking about a new library. So I appreciate the discernment that previous boards exercised in many areas, including this, and also in passing by the middle school, which would be a terrible burden for the county, given our current enrollment.
All right, so we've got some maybe to-dos for staff on the frequently asked questions, and
Yeah, and I'd floated around that model from West Bend, Wisconsin. They just broke ground on the $24 million firehouse. The graphics, I think, something along those lines. One was sort of, it was just like highlights, the key numbers, tax burden, why are we doing this? And then the second one was more like a narrative, frequently asked questions along the lines of what Ms. Comer was talking about. Something like that.
and then I wonder how long it would take to set up something similar to what was done out here, and possibly, if you guys think it's a good idea, have the meetings in the theater.
Sure.
I think setting it up is one thing, having advance notice so those citizens can plan to attend is
Yep.
another thing. And if there's more than one, that's, another thing. So, staff needs direction. What do you want to do?
I think a very long Saturday or Sunday.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
where we just do-
For simplicity, I like that idea, and I attended that at the balloon flight. So, I like that entire idea. A rolling, you have it set up out there, you have some folks that can answer questions directly, and then have rolling sessions, rolling talking sessions. 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 3 o'clock, maybe. I don't know. Just pulling that out of thin air. And I would love to, the sooner the better. I think the sooner the better.
We also had it planned, if I remember right, at the building committee, we had a date and we had a rain date, because
You did, because I showed
The
up
balloon
on the
can't
rain
fly.
date.
Yep.
So are you wanting a balloon?
Oh.
Or,
Some way to show this.
yeah,
I-
it might be it might be the same height as this building. I don't know. If there's-
Well,
I think I asked that, and it
Visual
was
cues.
very similar.
It's only money. You just tell me what you want to spend it on. I'll get
Yeah,
it.
and I think Van's idea of getting the architectural firm to be part of that.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember their process in terms of when they wanted to do, did they want to do something when they had locked something in with us, or was it
It was
before?
foreseen to be before, it was part of the process towards the end, was a community meeting. I guess this would take that place.
So I think that would be ideal, and so I think the thing to do is to ask them what Saturday they'd be available to do this. If what I'm hearing everybody say is that maybe a Saturday is probably the best day because of Ms. Comer's point, which is that you could have it open for a much longer period of time than during the week, and when would they be available to do that? How does that sound to you all?
Ask them if October 7th works.
After the board meeting?
September 27th.
And it's farm tour.
Oh, yeah, can't do that weekend.
And I think what you're
October
gonna
7th.
find is that it's gonna be difficult for you to find a day when you can all be there. And
Right.
it's gonna be-
7th is a Tuesday.
Yep.
But I would ask if I'm in the right year.
You
Is
are.
October 7th?
Is that what law school does to
What
you?
year is it?
I don't know. I'm not really aware.
September 27th. Are you good on the 27th of September?
I don't think we're gonna have a good pool that weekend because I think it's farm tour and John Jackson weekend. And, that's a tough weekend to compete.
Well, you know, if we do it, what about the 4th? Because then we'd have our meeting the 6th.
4th of October?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let me know how it turns out.
Uh-oh.
It's fine, I wasn't here for the other one either.
Oh, you're not gonna be
I think Gary should definitely be here.
here? Okay. Well,
When do you get back?
oh, so you're not here that week?
I'm not here that week,
Oh, yeah, it would
that
be good
week.
to have you here.
that weekend.
That weekend? Okay.
So the next one, the 11th?
October?
Yep, October 11th.
I should be here.
Is it a holiday weekend?
Yeah, it's Columbus Day or something.
I assume September 20th is
Yeah,
probably.
good birthday present for somebody.
How about the 18th?
That's fine.
Of October.
Of obligations at the landfill with sustainability matters, or doing some seeding.
Okay.
We can put a stand-in down there, I guess.
Is it you spreading the seed?
Native seeds.
And you stomp them into the dirt.
So,
So what Saturday are we looking at?
The 18th.
so is the 20th too soon, September 20th?
I think it is too soon. I think this date in mid-October is good. This gives us an opportunity to hear back from the town council, to invite them to reach out to the architect, to line up any spaces that we may need.
Would check every Saturday in October that you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for their availability too, the architects,
Yeah.
because they might be conflicted on a given day or whatever.
But I don't think a week or two lead time is enough lead time.
I'm here every weekend other than that first weekend.
Let's just do
Okay.
it.
Yep,
Okay.
get her done.
Just pick a date.
Yep, well, he's gonna
Oh,
check.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, I guess we
Okay.
can't
Do you
strong
need
arm
any
it.
action, Gary, or are we good? No,
No.
okay,
So,
actionables,
We-
great.
talking about frequently asked questions, and there's some discussion that each of you have been approached with questions frequently. So it would be wonderful if you would share them with me, and we'll pull them together. I'm sure they align in some ways, and then we'll get, pull together the answers.
Why can't we just do it in Culpeper, and why can't it be cheaper?
Yeah, okay. I'll get-
Those are the only two questions I get, genuinely.
Yeah.
I have a question for
Time
you.
machines don't exist, and
I have a
I think it answers both.
I have a question for you. Are there any localities in the Commonwealth of Virginia that don't have their own courthouse?
Yes, and do you know why? Prince William, because of a boundary line adjustment. Because it's in the city of Manassas,
Because it was a
which
town
is
in Manassas at
surrounded
one
by
time.
it. So if you go down and read the statutes, it has to be in the county. Or the city.
You have to have.
So there is that example though, but that's only because of things that happened afterwards.
Well, your point about dissolution of a locality,
I don't know that it's ever happened in Virginia. I don't know.
I mean,
No, I'm saying that the statute says that every county, every city must have a courthouse.
Yeah. But it happens.
So if you were to take it away, I don't know if I don't know.
Reversion from city to town
Yeah.
and things like that have happened.
Yeah.
But
And-
county,
But I did go
joining
down.
back with I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a politician, but I certainly wouldn't float that idea.
no, I'm not. I just wanted to understand where you were coming from on that. If there's some language in the Code of Virginia that says if a locality lacks a courthouse, it is thereby dissolved. And I don't think that
It was-
language.
I don't think it
The
says.
case he's
I
talking
don't think
about
it
probably
would.
was a town, and then it
Right,
became
I
a city.
understand that,
Yeah.
but
But I
you
can
made
just,
a pretty emphatic
I
statement.
can read what it says. The governing body of every county and city shall provide courthouses with suitable space and facilities. The county shall own fee simple of the lands, the buildings, and it just goes down, 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 down. But to your point, it doesn't say anywhere in here.
It
That
doesn't
if
say
you were to
that.
raise it
Right.
and it's gone,
No, and
what happens?
I appreciate your point. Absent
I don't know the
explicit
right-
language in that regard, you can't, I don't
You
think
just
you
have
can.
to own fee simple the land in some county. You know, our.
Okay, are we-
Wise.
I think
We're done.
we've got frequently asked questions. He's going to check on dates. Anything else that we asked for? I don't know.
And so what else, what do you want staff to provide for you at future meetings beyond this to help with your difficult decision?
I mean, I think at this point, we need to talk to the town council. They're supposed to meet, next Monday? And find out if they're willing to meet us halfway. And then I think this is a good idea to move this along and give people a visual, intense idea of what this is all gonna look like, hopefully.
And then the meetings in the theater
I think
at the same time.
we've kind of wrestled with building configuration and appearance. And it's now just a matter of how do we make it palatable from a fiscal perspective, and I know the answer, but I don't know that we'll secure that.
And even if it doesn't happen, my previous point was that I have come to the conclusion that it's not, we need to do it.
That's fine.
And
I mean,
yeah, I just wanted to say clearly for myself that, and I understand, and I agree with you all that we can go down this process this way. I just think how we do it, we will work out. But even if the town says, no way, we get in a huge fight with it, or it doesn't happen, or whatever, we still need to do it. But that's just me.
Well, I think there's a lot of bridges that we need to cross before we draw this project to a close. I still think the front's too elaborate. I don't even think it looks like a Rappahannock County building. I think it looks like a Charlottesville building. There's no building in our county that has a front like that. And I can't believe that there's not a faux column option that we could do, just like the people that built this courthouse and save the people of Rappahannock County some money. I don't think our courthouse needs a plaza. Our courthouse has a county green. We are all about green spaces in the county. Why would we be intent in making a bricked in or otherwise cement plaza in top of our courthouse that frankly from a security perspective is basically a driveway for somebody to drive their vehicle right through your front door? You're going to build a plaza and then you're going to have to build bollards to keep people from driving up to your courthouse. And if you don't believe me, ask people that work security in surrounding jurisdictions. I still think that we can have one courtroom. I think there's a lot of room to simplify this courthouse. When you say that there's court held on 130 days out of the year, that is basically half time. If there's more serious, longer trials that have to have longer time scheduled and drift further out, that's unfortunate. That's the economic reality of Rappahannock County. One courtroom is all we should be paying for. Why would we build two courtrooms basically using 25% of their time? And people can say, well, we're building for the future and more crime is going on in the localities around us. Maybe it will continue on that trajectory, but maybe not. Maybe things will start to get better and there will be a reduction in crime. So I just think the sky is falling approach of everything but the kitchen sink, make it as elaborate as possible, has been the wrong way to go. And I don't like to be critical of the work on the courthouse, but when it comes down to the bottom line and what we're going to have to pay for to get this done, these are the kind of hard questions that this board will have to ask at some point. And I think we should not lose sight and just rubber stamp a large project like this. Thank you.
Great. Moving into the sign ordinance.
I feel like we can get this done, guys.
Why don't we just advertise it for public hearing?
Oh, don't we want to go over this last one now? The sign dimensions?
Permanent sign dimensions.
I think this is in the last bullet point that we haven't.
Okay.
There we go.
How do you want to do this?
Well,
We go through what you put on the,
Okay.
I do agree with Ms. Smith that we should, I really would love to advertise this, but I think that we should maybe just have a quick overview of where we are with permanent sign dimensions, given that's the last bullet point.
Yeah. So I think, high level, a good place to start is to think about, do you need to define several different types of permanent signage? For example, the definitions now, and these have been trimmed down some, include an arcade sign, which is a sign projecting from beneath the underside of a structural overhang or passageway. Do we need to get into that amount of detail? And then we keep looking down: canopy sign, freestanding sign, marquee sign, pole sign, projecting sign, roof sign. Some may be required because maybe you want to prohibit a certain type of sign. But at the end of the day, the important concepts are how big, how tall, and how close to the road. And if you solve those, if you define those three things, do you need to get into the weeds with the other details? Is a big question for me. And that is, can a sign that's close to the ground be a different area than a sign that's tall? And if that's the case, like if you put your sign close to the ground, it can be a little bit bigger than if it's up on a big pole or a short pole, as we might allow. If you're not differentiating, then I don't know that we need to define a pole sign versus a this sign. You would just say that signs can be no taller than X, can be no larger area than Y, and must not be any closer than Z to the property line, or right of way, or nearest lane.
Off the top of your head, do we have the largest, highest possible?
in your document.
What do you mean?
Like-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what would that be?
It's a sliding scale, which is another area to
But
discuss.
at the top, what's at the top, like the?
Sure. So if you remember, this ordinance is set up for, defines the types of signs, it defines those signs that are prohibited, it defines those types of signs that must meet standards but don't need to get a piece of paper permit. And then it talks about your restrictions of size and location in residential and resource preservation. And then it talks about the same thing in commercial and industrial. So really, we've already gone through the sizes in the resource preservation and residential. But I think we can look at that again. So it's different, whether it's a commercial area or a resource preservation area. And you've already talked about this earlier. So in residential areas and ag and conservation, shall not exceed an aggregate of 32 square feet. Remember we talked about sheets of plywood and stuff.
Yep.
And nor be more than 12 feet in height. Nor be placed within the VDOT right of way. Nor impair the sight line. Okay, or pedestrians. So for that, for these ag, conservation, residential, pretty much said, don't make it bigger than a sheet of plywood, don't make it taller than 12 feet, and keep it out of the way, and you can do whatever kind of sign you want.
Okay, and then commercial?
Commercial, little bit different. in that it's
Right.
for commercial village,
Right.
right? So this is Sperryville, for
Hill.
example, Flint Hill. Total sign area shall not exceed 75 square feet in area. However, it's 2 square feet per each foot of building frontage.
Right.
If you have a big, long building,
In
you get a
addition to
bigger
the
sign.
75
No,
feet.
no, no, up to 75 feet.
Okay.
In commercial, general, and industrial, the maximum allowable sign area per lot or parcel should not exceed 2 square feet for the first 50 feet of building, plus 1 square foot for each additional foot, not to exceed 150 square feet.
Okay.
And then, commercial highway, different again, is 2 square feet for each foot, and it can't exceed 150 square feet, or an aggregate of 250 if the building is over 200 feet from the right of way. So if you have a big building and it's removed from the road, say, Sperryville Schoolhouse is highway commercial, and it's quite a ways back, you get a little bit more signage.
Okay. I feel really comfortable with this. And the thing is that, and I think I mentioned this to you all, have you seen our sign at Penn Druid that we put up?
Yeah.
We got a permit for that.
That's good to hear.
We got a permit for it, just because it was bigger than what is allowed currently, and it was very easy. It was like $100, and it happened very quickly. So I feel comfortable with this. If people want bigger ones, they can get a bigger one. You just get a permit for it, and you pay for it. And so I feel pretty good about this.
And so you were pinned in with the, kind of the maximum sign would be allowed in that
Right.
zoning district.
Exactly, which would have been smaller than commercial, so we wanted to use a whole sheet of plywood. Well, no, let me, this is full disclosure. My brother did it on a full sheet of plywood, and I said, that's too big. He said, yeah, but I spent so much time painting this. And I was like, all right, we're gonna have to get a permit for it.
Where did these various?
The commercial and industrial, those are, I believe, the same as we have right now.
Oh, okay.
And they do constrain things from time to time. For example, Sperryville Schoolhouse is maxed out, and they're actually over this because they were over it before 1986. And so they're maxed out at their grandfathered area.
Like a non-conforming use.
Yeah, they're
same
non-conforming.
principle.
If they discontinued use for 2 years, they lose that.
The one thing that, and this is, I love Paul and Cookie Baldwin, don't get me wrong, but I would say that when I use Door County, Wisconsin as my benchmark for great sign management, the shell sign there would never fly in a sort of a rural pastoral setting. And so I just want to make sure, obviously we don't have a lot of turnover in terms of the gas station type properties in the county, but I sure wish that that sign, and so, that would also include settles. I wish those were,
You mean their digital sign?
well, I mean,
They're
like,
lit.
Oh, their pole sign?
the
Yeah.
full sign, I wish they were,
Shorter?
yeah.
And shorter is, normally if they're shorter, it's tougher to have them close to the right of way because it becomes a sightline
Yeah.
issue. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Settles did run up against, when they rebranded to the new gas company,
Right.
they had a sign package and it was over. And so they kind of had to horse trade and find some signs on site to get rid of in order to make it fit. The old ordinance, in a way that isn't in keeping with the Supreme Court decision, singled out gas stations. This new ordinance tries to also single them out. The difference is that it singles out properties with a gas station and allows some extra allowances because of this pricing sign. But we can't tell them what's on the sign, so they can advertise anything they want on their bigger signs at a gas station site. And that's what this has. All other provisions of this article notwithstanding, each and every gasoline diesel filling station shall be permitted to have one pole sign not to exceed 20 feet in height. Whenever a pole sign is erected or maintained under this provision, no additional freestanding or pole sign of any type shall be permitted on the same premises except for the following types of signs shall be allowed and shall be excluded from the total sign area. So temporary placards, posters displaying on the outside surface of fuel pumps, even if it's seen from the public realm. A freestanding sign not to exceed 10 square feet in area, no part said sign shall exceed 3 feet in height or 4 feet
Yeah.
in height, blah, blah, blah. And then a building mounted sign with a maximum, it used to just say building mounted sign, which I've suggested you probably want to put a limit on that, because otherwise you're exempting a building mounted sign of any dimension would be exempted from their total area. So this is an extra authority for parcels that have a gas station on them. It is not about signs that advertise gas stations, because we can't do that. Does that make sense?
Are you sure that we can even do that for gas stations?
Sure. Yeah, we do it also in this ordinance, we do it for things like properties that are for sale, they can have extra temporary signage.
Right.
Chances are, it's gonna say for sale. But they could advertise anything you want. Okay. That's the
Because
the loophole.
sale's different than regulating use. So, anyway, we can get like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, okay. Well, okay, how do you all feel about this? You want to advertise it?
Yeah.
Yes.
We just need to fill in the blank.
Yeah,
Right.
so I think that is the only blank that is in here.
And this would be for the whole package, right?
Okay.
And now remember,
Yes.
the planning commission will have a public hearing and then the board, unless you wanted to have a joint.
Let's just do
Public
it, try and be done
What
with
does the planning commission want to do? Christine, can you give a crystal ball?
I would,
I was
I
just seeing
would
if there's
think-
any others.
I would think that a joint meeting would be beneficial. I don't know that we'll adopt it verbatim after the joint meeting, but I think that we should take feedback at this time. Because we've been working on it for quite a while, and I think it has fallen out of the public view.
Yep.
And I think the best way to put it back in perspective is to hold the public hearing.
Great, I agree.
Well, we've found twice before, when it went for public hearing, that it did garner attention and subsequent review and revision.
It's a lot of moving parts, and I think it's to a point where hopefully whatever we get will be targeted feedback, and we'll be able to make quick revisions.
So with regard to this provision, whether you want it or not, that if you are a gas station that has a pole sign that might say your brand of gas and the price per gallon, we know that those type of facilities require just a little bit extra signage compared to a typical commercial establishment. Do you also want to exempt from their maximum area, 75 square feet, if they're in a commercial area, or 32 square feet if they're not in a commercial area? Do you want to, which I don't even know if they're allowed anymore by special exception, so, would you want to put a limit on the size of a building mounted sign that might say Settles, or
Right.
Union 76, or Quickie Mart?
Didn't you have a total?
I mean, the gauge is what other signs are
Right.
typically used in commercial areas, independent from, say, the pole sign that says the amount of gas. So at a typical commercial establishment, whether it's co-op or a bank, you know, they get a 75 square foot sign on the side of their building. How big should the sign on the side of a gas station building be, recognizing that they're also having a pole sign? Or do you not, if you don't have to carve it out, it was just a recognition that it's hard for those gas stations to make it work in their sign package. And they really can't, on their canopy, it's hard for them to advertise anything.
No.
A lot of them want to put the gas name and stuff up there, but that gets way over.
So any idea what the total is for Settles and for the Quickie Mart, their sign plus any building signage?
What they are now, staff could research it and use that as a basis. I mean, Quickie Mart doesn't have much, neither of them have a ton on the buildings themselves.
Settles got the
So
garage.
It's, and the canopy would be building mounted as well.
I think Quickie Mart just has 211 Quickie Mart in white letters on the front.
Yeah, right.
There'd be a box around that.
I mean, so 32 square feet is, you know, the size of a sheet of plywood. Do you guys want to double that? That would be 75. Or 32? Okay, 32, I'm good.
I mean, it's good, it's like you could do a 4x8 or a 3x12.
Yeah, okay, 32 is good. Good.
I think that's more than adequate.
It's just, you know, not that it will happen this way, but whatever we, so wait, is the process now we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do a public hearing with the planning commission?
Yep.
And so the reason I was making it a little bit bigger is that, I think you're right, though. Because we can always come down, we just can never go up. Right?
That's complicated in that the eye of the beholder is important in that question. So
Okay, never
a
mind.
gasoline station might say,
Never mind.
you know, smaller is
Yeah.
worse for me, but a,
Right.
person who
Right.
wants to see
Okay,
less,
gotcha,
you know,
gotcha. Yeah, that's a question for our.
You're talking about in terms of having to have a rehearing.
the void
Yeah.
ab initio question, yeah.
I don't know that we'll, like I said, I don't know that we'll pass it coming out of public hearing, but if we want feedback,
Yes,
Ready to get?
I agree.
So if we're to look at joint, do you want to focus on a typical Board of Supervisors meeting date or Planning Commission meeting date? One or the other makes the most sense. And planning commissioners generally have their schedule free for their date. You have your schedule free for your date, yeah. So if you're all free on their date, which would not be till November.
I mean, maybe the best way to schedule it is to reach out to the planning
October.
commission and see if everybody's free for
Just be flexible.
the
Yeah,
next
that's
Board of
fine, that's fine.
Supervisors meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, if we want to poll, if you want, yeah, it's fine.
I kind of feel like we should meet on their date. Only just because, you know, they're volunteer, they're,
So are you for all practical purposes.
You haven't heard about the handsome rewards that come with appointment to the planning commission?
I mean, they, like, I know, I realize, you know, if we whittle down our hours, but on paper, they are volunteer, they are citizens truly, truly giving of themselves. I just feel,
That's fine, I don't care.
yeah.
So just to make things clean, I would like, just to make sure we're tracking everything, so, would you entertain someone to make a motion to authorize the advertisement of public hearing, joint public hearing at a date that is acceptable to the planning commission and board of supervisors?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that, we pull, someone
I'll
do
make
that?
that motion.
I'll second.
Does it matter that we only have discussion and information on that item?
I don't think so.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed.
Are we there? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I'll second. Go ahead.
Dan and Donna. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.